This video is meant for technical people that are trying to build technical integrations with Hireflix and other platforms. If you are a normal Hireflix user, this video is not for you. You can use Hireflix without the need of any code. Just wanted to make this first disclaimer before we start. Let's go. Welcome, I'm Antonio, the CEO of Hireflix. In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to use our GraphQL API so that if you need one-way video interviews in your applicant tracking system or your portal or custom CRM, that you can actually trigger invitations to these interviews from there and then send back the responses of the candidates directly to your system. There are super easy quick integrations you can do, or you can do deeper integrations where you, for instance, show the actual video responses of candidates on your platform instead of showing a link that then you click to watch the answers. If you're here, you already know that we are rated #1 worldwide for one-way video interviews. We're also the most user-friendly platform, the most affordable one, and the most focused one. We exclusively only work in one-way video interviews to make them as user-friendly and affordable and effective as humanly possible. And this is all we think about every day. If this is the first time that you're using a GraphQL API, don't worry. You're going to see that it has lots of benefits compared with a REST API. You don't need Postman collections, stuff like that. The docs here are going to tell you everything, which queries and which mutations you can execute, which return types you can expect, which arguments are needed. Everything is going to be there for you. Remember that Hireflix is API first, meaning everything that you see on our website on the front end can also be done through the API. Now, once we use this, we're going to be using this playground here to do some queries and stuff. This is the way to explore the API. This is the best practice is to use this playground to explore it, to test things. But once you actually have to do it, you'll do it programmatically. You may be asking, how do I do that? How do I query programmatically these same queries that I'm doing here in the playground? And the answer is super simple. Regardless of the programming language that you use, to make a GraphQL request to our API, you have to issue an HTTP post request with a JSON payload to the endpoint, okay? And the content of the JSON payload, it's super simple. It's basically the query, the GraphQL query itself, okay? And I'll show you an example. So for instance, here, again, we have just this very basic query. You can actually explore, go to network, and then see the actual payload. And look, it's literally just the query that is being sent. So, or the other way to look at this is by copying this query, and you can go to JSON blob, for instance, and then just, copy it here. And you'll see that, this is exactly what it's being sent that we've been, seeing here on this payload. Okay, so to start, go to api.hireflix.com. I assume you've already built your account, and you're going to see that there are 3 different tabs here, okay? So on the first one, API Discovery, it's going to tell you, the different endpoints that are available. The one that you will need to use is this /me endpoint, because it is the one where you can invite candidates to interviews or fetch which candidates have answered a certain interview, all of that, okay? And Administration API is precisely that endpoint here. I'm going to show you some of the most basic queries, and then we're also going to talk about, okay, like if, let's say I have an applicant tracking system and I want to, allow interviews to be triggered from my ATS for my customers. And then once the candidates answer, those answers get automatically, pasted on the candidate profile of this client of mine. How to do that? If that's your use case, I'll tell you step by step the things that you need to keep in mind to do that integration in a very easy way. Okay. So the administration API, the /me one, the one that we're going to be using, needs authentication. Okay, so there is an HTTP header that you are going to have to use on every request, which is this one x/API/key. And here you have to put your API. Of course, if you're an ATS doing an integration, programmatically, each customer that activates the API integration, they'll have to put their own API key here. And how to do this? Well, in Hireflix, it's super easy. Got your account API keys, and then you can create an API key. The title doesn't matter. Now we're gonna copy this key, and then we're gonna put it here on the HTTP header. And see that before this was giving me an error, invalid API key, because I'm not authenticated. But as soon as I put that in, look, it's now basically returning what I've told, right? So as you can see here, it's returning the ID, the name, and then the company information, which is its own little nested thing here. So of the company, we have the ID and the name of the company. Okay, so first example. If you have an ATS and you want people to be able to launch interviews from your ATS, at some point you're going to have to allow them to see what are all of the interviews that they've created on Hireflix. So of course your clients will need a Hireflix account to create their interviews and all. And then from your ATS, you need to show which positions are open and available in Hireflix, right? So how to do that? So how do we see which positions are available and all? Very easy. So we go to the playground, and then now that we are authenticated, we can click here on Docs. And here on Docs, you can see all of the queries that are available and also all of the mutations. Queries are basically used to fetch information, and mutations are actually used to create a side effect on the server. So this is a bit like the post get request on a REST API. This just fetches information. This actually causes stuff to happen in the server. So in order to fetch, for instance, which positions, we call them positions in Hireflix, exist in an account, how do we do that? Okay, so then let's do this query. So let's delete all of this. So to query something, you just put query, then open brackets, and then here I have to use the positions query. As you can see, it auto-completes it for me. And then in positions, which return types do I want? I just have to open brackets again and tell it, well, I want the ID. And then also I want the name. And I do that by doing it in a different line. And if I do this, look, it tells me each position that I have on my account, and each position, for instance, Customer Success Manager, has an ID. And if you can see, the ID is here, 6399DB, and that's exactly what appears here also. So that's it. That's straightforward. Like just by looking at this and knowing what kind of things I can expect, what if I want to know, if it's deleted? So I just put here deleted, and it's gonna also send me that, okay? And it's not deleted, as you can see. If you're interested in seeing which payload is being sent, then you can click here. And again, this is exactly what we explained before. This is what is being sent to the server. Okay, so as an ATS, now I have a way to show each, obviously programmatically, each account, right? But now I have a way to show which positions are in Hireflix. Okay, so now you have the knowledge to fetch, position IDs from the company, and you can even know if they've been archived or not, in case, you only want to show the ones that are. So let's do an example. So if I come here and I archive Sales Associate, okay, and then I do this, look, it's been archived and it tells me when. If I take it out, back to open, then it's null, okay? So you could use this, for instance, to only show the open positions on your ATS. You don't want people to be using closed interviews that you've closed already in Hireflix. Okay, awesome. So now other very common questions that we get. So how do we then invite a candidate to an interview? So let's say on your ATS, you now have been able to show your user, okay, I want the sales associate interview. Let's invite this candidate or these 5 candidates. So how do I invite a candidate to an interview through the API? Okay, so let's go ahead to the docs and let's explore. Now, since I'm inviting a candidate, I'm not going to be using a query. I'm going to be using a mutation, right? I want some effect to happen on the server. Let's see what we need to use. Well, probably, to invite someone, you're inviting a candidate to a specific position. And by the way, let's do that. So here, the sales associate one is let's see which one. So the customer success manager is the one that I want to invite someone to. So the first thing we need is, of course, you have to know the ID. And this is it. This is the ID. I'm going to paste it somewhere just temporarily so that I can retrieve this later, okay? So I'm just going to, again, paste it here temporarily so that I can retrieve that later, okay? Awesome. So then we go to the docs and then we say, okay, which mutation do I need now? Well, probably position, right? So, and you can see when I do this, it tells me all of the nested mutations that I can do. So first I say on this position, here it says which arguments I need, which is the ID of the position, okay? The argument is here, and that's why I copied it there. And then it's a nested mutation, which means, hey, I'm gonna do something on this position, and what do you wanna do? You wanna save, invite, archive, delete? I wanna invite, okay? Good. And all of these we can do here, so let's do it. So mutation, then what we need, position, Then, by the way, the position, as we've seen, needs an ID, right? In this case, because you need to tell the system which position you want. So then we open parentheses to put the ID, okay? And the ID is which one? And here we're gonna put the one that I copied before. Okay, so this way, we are basically telling the system which position is the one that I wanna invite people to. Then we open brackets again, and here we have to use the invite mutation. Now the invite one, what does it need? Well, to invite a candidate, you have to invite the candidate, and then there's other stuff that you can do, but let's focus on the basic. I want to invite a candidate, I just need the candidate. Now, this argument candidate, what does it need? Here it tells me, you know, the email, the name, the phone, right? And the email and name are compulsory, right? They are needed, that's why they are like this. So as you can see, the system is basically telling me everything, right? So let's do it. Now the invite, we said, needs a candidate. So we're gonna do parentheses, candidate, okay? Now this candidate needs an email and name. So let's do that. So candidate needs, candidate needs an email and a name. An email, which will be, and a name, which will be Minnie Mouse, okay? So as you can see, the docs are basically telling you everything you need. And then after this, what do you want to get back, right? What information do you wanna get back? And we can do that by adding it here. So maybe I wanna get back the ID or the, you know, the candidate information. So let's do the candidate information. So I want to get back the candidate information. Which information? Well, let's do, let me see. So I'm gonna invite a candidate. No, I mean, yeah, let's do the name of the candidate and the email. Okay. I run it and look, very interesting. If I go here, Minnie Mouse has been invited, okay? This is awesome. And now here, you can see it's also bringing me back the information that I requested, the name and email. Now, of course, you know, if this is properly configured, then that candidate will get the invitation email, the reminders, or whatever it's been set up. So you don't have to worry about that. The candidate will get a link, they will then answer the interview, and that's when the next step comes. Okay, so probably then what we want is we want to query a position, right, to see which interviews exist inside of that position, correct? Let's do that. Again, let's come here, and we're going to start with a query. What do we want to query? Probably a specific position, right, with a specific ID. Let's do that. So as a position with a specific ID. So position with a specific ID. Now the specific ID is here. The ID is the one that we used before. And then what do we want to query? Well, in this case, paginated interviews. Okay, I want to query the paginated interviews. Now, paginated interviews doesn't need anything. It does. It needs a pagination input. Let's add that. Pagination input, which is this, correct? Sorry. Awesome. Then the pagination input, what is it? Let's check it. Pagination input has a limit that has to be like this. So let's do it. So pagination has a limit. Nice. And this limit, let's do 10. Okay. Awesome. What else? Well, what do I want to get back from, you know, what information do I want back from this this query? Let's do it. Count total as results. Probably I want results back, yeah? Results, okay? And now the results, what do I want from the results? Well, results, as we see here, allow me to do, for instance, the ID or the status or stuff like that. ID, candidate, you can also have candidate information, right? So it's super cool. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm gonna do results, and I want candidate information. Which information? I want the name and the email. Nice. I also want out. Maybe I also want the ID, right? And that's it. Let's see. Let's see what comes up. And look, now I've gone to that position and I fetch the name, the email, and the ID of all of that. So that's how you can, for instance, see which candidates are present inside of a position. So which candidates have, are in this interview funnel. Okay, does that make sense? So again, super easy, everything super intuitive using the docs. Awesome. So one question is, that people have is, how can I send, an interview back to my ATS? So look, on the docs, if you check here, there is a URL variable that it's that you can retrieve when you use this mutation of position, then paginated interviews, then results. Then you can fetch this URL. So actually, let's go ahead and fetch this URL, and then let's see how it comes up. Okay, so here I put the URL, and then I'm gonna do like private. Now, the private URL is the actual URL that takes you to the response of the candidate in Hireflix, right? So if you're in Hireflix, this, for instance, is the public URL. Now, to access this, you need to be authenticated. You need to be inside of the account as a user. So if you use this, if you use this private URL, maybe you paste it on your ATS, on the candidate profile, it's not as good because then the person, once they click it, they'll have to be a user in Hireflix to be able to watch it. So how can we share an interview without the need to do this? Well, the secret is that there is a link called shareable link, and this link allows you to see the interview without the need to actually log in anywhere, okay? And you can create these links through the API. How do you create those links through the API? Very easy. Let's check the docs. So there's going to be a mutation for that, right? So a mutation, let's check mutations, for instance, interview, okay? And then share. So exactly. So an interview ID, I want to share, okay? And then on share, you can see there is the argument duration in days. So you can actually determine how long this shareable link is going to be active. And by using this interview share mutation, you can create a shareable link that then you can paste on the candidate profile so that when people click on it on your ATS, the video comes up. What if you want to use the actual videos? There is also a way to do that. We're not going to look at it now here, but it can definitely be done. Okay, so before I've shown you how you can query a position to see all of the different responses inside of the position. Of course, you do not have to keep calling our API to see what new candidates have completed the interview or anything. We have webhooks that will tell you as soon as someone completes the interview, right? So on each Hireflix account, there is a webhook section. And on this section, one can create a webhook for interview finish, for instance, and then send this webhook information to your system through your URL that you will prepare, like the callback URL. And then you'll receive that information with the candidate ID that has completed the interview, and then you can use that to create the shareable link I just shown you so that you can then paste it on your ATS. This webhook you can create programmatically also through the API. Okay, so if you check on the mutations on the docs, you're gonna find webhooks mutation, create, and then you have to give it your URL, your callback URL, and then specify the event. For instance, interview.finish. This means let's say if you're an ATS with different customers and you want them to be able to use Hireflix, once the customer creates the API key and gives it to you, they don't have to do anything. Like you can create the webhook programmatically so that the client doesn't even know that this exists. And then every time an interview finishes in this account, you will be you'll get that event, and you can then create the shareable link and paste it at your end. Okay, so this is just a super quick overview, but you see how simple and easy everything is. Remember, this API can be great for custom cases or for integrations with ATS, things like that. There are other ways to automate things by using Zapier or stuff like that. If you have any questions, again, please reach out to Antonio at hireflix.com or through the chat, and we'll be here ready to support you, ready to help you. We'd love to hear from you, so please do reach out. All the very best, and I look forward to hearing from you.